ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय राधिकायै प्रियात्मने श्रीमद्भक्तिवेदान्त नारायण गोस्वामिनिति नामिने। श्रीकृष्णलीला कथने सुदक्षं औदार्य माधुर्य गुणैशयुक्तं वरं वरेण्यं पुरुषं महान्तं श्रीनारायणं त्वं शिरसा नमामि। त्रिदण्डिनां भक्तशिरोमणिं च श्रीकृष्णपादाब्जधृतये हृदि चैतन्यलीलामृतसारसारं नारायणं त्वं सततं प्रपद्ये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्याय नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमस्तुते। श्याम सुंदर शिखंड शेखर स्मेरहास मुरली मनोहर राधिका रसिक मां कृपा निधे स्वप्रिया चरण किंकरीं कुरु। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। तवैवास्मि न जीवामि त्वया विना इति विज्ञाय राधे तन्नय माम चरनन्तिके। भक्त्या विहीनापराधलक्षै क्षिप्ताश्च कामादितरङ्गमध्यै कृपामयि त्वं शरणं प्रपन्ना वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम्। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। So first of all, I offer my unlimited obeisances unto the divine lotus feet of my most worshipable spiritual master, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktivedant Narayan Goswami Maharaj. My unlimited obeisances unto the divine lotus feet of Sachidanand Thakur Srila Bhakti Vinod, and unto the lotus feet of our Rupanuga Guru Varga, and my respects to all the assembled devotees. So, by the causeless mercy of Shri Shri Guru and Gaurang, we are continuing the study of Jaiva Dharam. As you all know, all our acharyas and Gurudev have emphasized that we should seriously study Jaiva Dharam because it explains all the important Gaudiya Siddhant in such a beautiful and clear manner. So, in this chapter, we have been studying the different categories of devotees and their behavior. So, last time we discussed the about Madhyam Adhikari, the middle level of devotees. And it is important, again, as I always say, to understand this because in bhakti, it is through our behavior that our level of devotion is understood. So, one is Gyan, which is knowledge, but the knowledge is only meaningful or effective in attaining Krishna Prem when we realize that knowledge. And to the degree we realize the knowledge, to that extent, we advance in these categories of devotion and ultimately attain our cherished goal of Vishuddha Krishna Prem. So, last time we completed the four main characteristics of the medium or the intermediate or madhyam adhikari devotees. So, we'll continue from there. Sri Haridas Babaji, he's explaining, and he says that the degree of friendship that the Madhyam Bhakta establishes with other devotees should be in keeping with the degree of their advancement in bhakti. So, as we have been discussing, that this discretion is only there in a intermediate devotee. Today we will discuss about the most advanced devotees, also called Uttama Adhikari, and we will see that they're so advanced that they don't see anyone lower or higher. So, in their eyes, everyone is Krishna Bhakta. And those who are Kanishta or neophyte devotees, they of course are still in so much bodily conception that they don't know how to properly behave with different devotees. So it is the Madhyamadikari. He has this discretion. And what Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining here, that he should associate with different devotees according to their level of advancement. And similarly, so if you remember, we discussed the four characteristics of devotees. And just to revise all of that, so we'll just quickly go through this once again. So this is where in Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Havi is explaining to Maharaj Nimi that Ishvare tat adhineshu balisheshu dvishatsu cha prem maitri kripa upeksha yah karoti saha madhyama. So what does that mean? That there are four characteristics: love for Sri Hari, friendship towards the devotees, mercy towards the ignorant, and he neglects those who are inimical. So we have discussed this in great detail. So in conclusion of this discussion, what Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining, that as far love for Sri Hari, they are following what is the definition of pure bhakti. Anya bhilasheta shunyam gyan karmadi anavritam. Now the remaining three, they have their characteristic is that the remaining three they do in proportion to the devotion or level of ignorance or level of enmity in these three categories. So, for example, as far as devotees are concerned, their friendship is based on the level of devotion of the other person. What does that mean? Not that they are discriminating in a negative way, but as we discussed before, they know that those who are still neophyte, they show them respect but and show them compassion, but not necessarily associate very closely. And those who are advanced devotees, to them they serve with all their heart and soul. And those who are at the same level, they have a mood of close friendship with them. Similarly, he says when showing mercy towards the ignorant, it depends on the degree of sincerity or foolishness. So if someone is so deeply ignorant, so it's not, every one of these is in shades of gray, right? You will never find, it's not that everyone is completely ignorant. So our ignorance is also at different levels, at different degrees. So accordingly, when they preach, so again, remember that Madhyamadikari are the most effective preachers. Why? Because they can understand what is the level of each person and accordingly they can relate with them and preach to them. Right? Just like the best teacher in a class would be who can see what is the level of each student in the class. So if there are 40 students or 20 students in the class, all 20 students will be at different levels. Now, unfortunately, the teacher does not have the time, right? So she teaches the same lesson, but the different students, they grasp at different level, right? But if the teacher had the time and she could create the lesson for each child as per their level, that would be the best teacher, right? So, what this means is when they show mercy towards the ignorant, they do it at in the proportion of their sincerity or ignorance. So, someone who is very deeply ignorant, they are not going to start teaching them Ras Tattva, right? To them, they have to teach the very, very basics. And those who are very sincere, they may share with them a little bit more depth of what is the principles of devotional service, right? So that's what this means. And finally, he says that extent to which he neglects the inimical depends on the degree of the enmity. So those who are extremely envious, he will completely stay away from them. But those whose envy is not that much, right? So again, there may be people who have some enmity, but that could be out of ignorance, but they're still open to listening. So again, based on that, he would relate with each one of them. So he says that this is what the someone who is intermediate devotee, he should consider all of this. And then as far as worldly affairs are concerned, he should conduct them in a straightforward manner, but should always be performing them with consideration of the ultimate spiritual benefit. So as we've been discussing, we live in this world. In this world, we have relationships, whether it's with family, society, at work. So he conducts all those relationships properly, but at the same time does not get too involved, because everything he does in relationship to what the ultimate spiritual benefit is. So as Haridas Babaji was explaining this devotee from Badgachi, he asked a question: what is the behavior of Uttam Bhaktas? So now the discussion of Uttam Vaishnavas will start. But before we go there, and as a background, I just want to go through what are the three categories of Madhyam Adhikari devotees. So just like we had discussed regarding the neophyte devotees, they have three categories. Within Madhyam also there are three categories. So as I've been using this example of a school. So just like when you are in the middle school, so middle school also has three grades, grade 6, 7th, and 8th, right? So similarly, in the Madhyam also there are three levels, and we will briefly discuss them. These are all in relation to the level of development of the devotion of the devotee. So let's see what these are. So the first level is called Madhyam Kanisht. So Kanisht is basically, Kanisht means neophyte or a beginner, right? So a Madhyam Kanisht is one who has successfully crossed out of ritualistic, materialistic devotion. So at the neophyte stage, they still have some material desires. They're still kind of involved in some rituals. But as they graduate from the Kanisht level to the Madhyam level, they now fully understand that the ritualistic practices are not important part of pure bhakti. And now they are situated in what is called nishtha. So in the stages of development of bhakti that start from shraddha, faith, adav shraddha, sadhu sang, then we have association with devotees, and then we start engaging in bhajan kriya, different limbs of bhakti, shravan, kirtanam, Vishnu smaranam, and this leads to anarth nivritti, which is slowly all the contaminations start getting washed away. We start getting cleansed of all those contaminations, which are called anarthas. So at the neophyte stage, one is still becoming free from these different anarthas. So when one has sufficiently become free from them, he gets into the stage what is called nishtha. So nishtha means there is now steadiness in unbroken devotional practice. So the heart is also mostly, not completely, but mostly clear of gross bad habits. So there may be still some anarthas because anarthas are at different levels. We will discuss that a little bit more. They're very sukshma, very subtle. So some of them may still be there. But he has still not developed a real taste for spontaneous bhakti. What that means is he still has to push himself. So, till the real taste comes, we still have to push ourselves for chanting, for hearing, remembering. So, at this stage, this devotee is still in where he has to make a conscious, deliberate effort to maintain his steadiness. But at the same time, he now is able to discriminate and actively practices how to relate with different devotees, but he does it mechanically or with some conscious effort. So, this is what a Kanishtha is, Madhyam Kanishtha. And then, as one keeps practicing devotional life, keeps following the principles of bhakti, comes to the next stage. So, this is called Madhyam Madhyam, or the intermediate level of the Madhyam Adhikari. And at this point, after Nishtha comes Ruchi. Ruchi means there is now some taste for chanting and hearing. And he is steadily moving towards the next stage, which is called Asakti. So, heart is exceptionally clean, and the material desires feel entirely foreign and unappealing. So, see, this is where, as I've always said, and as is explained by our acharyas, that if one keeps following the practice of bhakti without committing any offenses, then all of these things happen naturally, right? So the progression from one to the next level. Now, at this point, naturally he starts feeling distaste for material things. But still, what are the limitations? He has not yet awakened pure spiritual emotion, bhav, which comes a bit later. And realizations are still largely based on scriptural logic and philosophical conclusions, but there is not a direct internal vision of Krishna's pastimes. However, because they are very deeply rooted in the understanding of Siddhanta, they are already very highly capable and expert preachers, and therefore can skillfully delete any opposing arguments of atheists or impersonalists. And again, they are able to relate with different devotees and exhibit those four characteristics of a Madhyam Adhikari without needing to force it. So now there's some spontaneity coming in their behavior. Finally, they come to the next level, which is Madhyam Uttam. And at this point, they have fully established in deep spiritual attachment, which is Asakti. And they're standing at the threshold of pure spiritual emotion, which is Bhav. They have flawless realization of the absolute truth. And now they have started chanting Shuddh Nam. So, till this point, it is not necessarily there is chanting. They have developed taste for chanting, but still there are some subtle anarthas. So, when they come to the stage of Madhyam Uttam, they are now chanting Shuddh Nam, and they experience they do experience some ecstatic emotions which are called sattvic bhav, but they have not completely come at the stage of prem, right? So, but they have come to the stage of bhav. So again, they act as spiritual guides. They are the teachers for the entire world, and they're completely free from any kind of worldly ambitions. So their presence is very powerful, and they're very expertly able to guide their disciples to the highest stages of execution. So, best devotees who are effective preachers and are able to nourish their followers are those who are Madhyam Uttam or Madhyam Madhyam. Now, as we will see, now the qualities of an Uttam Vaishnav. Uttam devotees, Uttam Vaishnavas, like all our Acharya Varga, they are Uttam Mahabhagavats. but for the sake of preaching, they come to this level of Madhyam Uttam, right? So they come one level because then only they can preach. So now remember this, those who are at this stage, they have already developed bhav, they're chanting Shuddh Nam. So this devotee, he asks, what is the symptoms of someone who has become an Uttam Vaishnav? So hearing this, Babaji Mahashay, he got a bit disturbed. He said that I'm in the process of answering your questions. Let me finish. And you are interrupting me in between. I'm an old man. He was almost 100 years old. My memory is fading. And if I change the subject matter too abruptly, I will forget what I was going to say. So Babaji was a very elevated Vaishnav. So sometimes, we may get confused by seeing the behavior of a very elevated Vaishnavs. So someone may think, oh, why is he getting irritated? It is because when he is speaking Krishna Katha, they're so absorbed in it. They're literally in samadhi, in trance. We have seen like Shri A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. When he will speak, his eyes will be completely closed. When Shri Gurudev, they are speaking, they are in trance. And at that time, of course, if someone disturbs or makes noise, sounds, it certainly causes some disturbance. So Gurudev will also sometimes chastise that when during Krishna Katha, when Katha is going on, if someone will at that time stand up, go here and there, this is disrespect to the Katha and also disturbs the speaker. So we should always be very careful. So Babaji was a bit irritated, but everyone knew that he was saying this only out of love for those who were hearing, so as to caution them that one should not unnecessarily disturb in between. So he said that when anyone will speak inappropriately, Babaji would be quick to respond. He is not finding fault, but he is only trying to caution that be follow appropriate etiquette when you are listening the katha. So there is of course a time when the speaker says, now there is time, if you have any questions you can ask. So this is what he's trying to teach them. So then Babaji, he again offered his respects to Lord Nityananda at the foot of the banyan tree under which they were all sitting, and then he resumed speaking. So now he says that when the bhakti of the Madhyam Vaishnav progresses beyond the stages of sadhan and bhav and comes to the level of prem, it becomes highly condensed at that time. Then the Vaishnav becomes Uttam Vaishnav. So let's go back to what we were just looking at this slide. So this is Madhyam Uttam. Now, at this stage, his devotion has crossed the stages, all the stages, has now matured bhav, it is condensed. So when he says this has become so condensed beyond the stages of sadhan and bhav. So there are three categories of bhakti that are described: sadhan bhakti, bhav bhakti, and then prema bhakti. And why these are the three categories, this is explained by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in Madhure Kadambani. So he says when he has completed the stages of sadhan bhakti and bhav bhakti, now he has come to the level of prem. So what are the symptoms or the characteristics of such a devotee? And Sri Havi is narrating this in Srimad Bhagavatam, the characteristics of an Uttam Vaishnav. सर्वभूतेषु यः पश्येत भगवत भावम आत्मनः भूतानि भगवती आत्मनि एष भागवत उत्तमः. So he says sarvabhuteshu yah pashyet bhagvat bhavam atmana. Sarvabhuteshu means all the living entities. Yah pashyet means he sees. Bhagvat bhavam atmana means that he sees his own bhagvat bhav, his own ecstatic mood of attraction towards Sri Bhagwan in the hearts of all the jivas. So this Uttam Vaishnav, he has such immaculate, pure love for the Lord. And he sees that every living entity has the same love for Sri Hari. Of course, most entities, most people are conditioned. They are in gross ignorance. But his vision is so elevated. He's not seeing their physical bodies, he is not seeing the subtle bodies. He's seeing the Jivatma within each one of them, and each living entity is ultimately pure and servant of the Lord. So it is said that mat manyet jagat sarvam, that we see the world the way we are. So, for example, a thief sees everyone as a thief, right? A liar sees everyone as a liar. A person who has a good nature, who is not cynical, he does not see anyone as a bad person, right? So, generally, we see the person, the world, the way our nature is. So, similarly, because this Uttam Vaishnav is so elevated, he sees that everyone has the same love the same love, pure love for Sri Hari. And then Bhutani Bhagavati Atmani Esha Bhagavat Uttamaha. Then he also sees that just like the my Lord loves me, right? He reciprocates with me. He sees that the Lord reciprocates with all the jivas in the world. So, Sri Haridas ji explains that an Uttam Vaishnav perceives that all living beings love Sri Hari with the same particular feeling of transcendental love that he himself cherishes, and he also perceives that Sri Hari feels a reciprocal attitude of love towards all living beings. An Uttam Vaishnav has no disposition other than the mood of transcendental love. So, see, such an elevated personality. They are only made of love. Except for transcendental love, they have nothing else in their heart. Just and therefore, everyone gets automatically gravitated towards them. They become like this super magnet of love that just by seeing them, one of their qualities, just by seeing them, your heart becomes purified. And those who are fortunate enough to see Shil Gurudev, those who are fortunate to see Shil Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Shil Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj, such elevated acharyas, you have to have their darshan to experience what potency they had. And they were, love was oozing out of them, pure love. And anyone who would come in their association, even momentarily, will experience that divine bliss. So he's saying this is, they have nothing except for the mood of transcendental love. Other moods may arise in them from time to time, but they are all transformations of that prema. So, what does that mean when he says it's they are made of love, but at the same time they also may sometimes have anger. They may also sometimes say some things which are not necessarily expression of pure love, but he says all of these are transformations of love. And he explained this by using an example that when Sri Shukadeva Goswami, who's narrating Srimad Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit, so during the time when Krishna comes to Mathura and he is in the Yagyasha, in the arena, the wrestling arena of Kansa, where Chanur and Mushtik, and before that Kuvala appeared, those ferocious elephants ready to kill him. So there, Shukdev Goswami uses the word Bhoj Panchula. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has also written a book called Krishna Sanghita, which describes Krishna's pastimes. So there also he uses this word Bhoj Panchula. So what does that means? Bhoj means this Kansa was in the Bhoj dynasty, and Panchula means a disgrace. So he uses the word that Kansa is a disgrace to the Bhoj dynasty. So one may question that if Shukadeva Goswami is an Uttam Vaishnav, and the characteristic of an Uttam Vaishnav is that he sees everyone as a servant of Krishna, then why is he using such a derogatory word for Kansa? So here he explains that although it appears as if these words were spoken out of enmity towards Kansa, they're actually a manifestation of prem towards Krishna. Why? Because his love for Krishna is so intense that when he's seeing that someone is there to hurt my beloved, then out of that love for Krishna, he's saying like this towards Kansa, not because that he has any enmity towards Kansa, but it is more out of his love for his beloved. So uh, when Shuddh Prem becomes the very life of a devotee, he is known as an Uttam Bhagwat. So again, this is very difficult for us to conceive because we rarely see someone like this in the world. And therefore, it is very difficult to comprehend the characteristics, the moods, and the behavior of such devotees. That's why in Chaitanya Charitamrita it says, Vaishnavara Kriya Mudra Janiya na Bujhiya. Especially for Uttam Vaishnavas, we should not try to make any judgments about their activities and about their behavior because they're at a very, very elevated stage. Shil Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, he's chanting the holy name day and night. And because he felt that people in the world were so materialistic, always coming to him with so many material desires, what did he do? He went into a public toilet. Today, if you go to public toilets in India, they're still neat and clean, but we are talking, this is in 1920s, right? When there were, what kind of public toilets were there? There were no flushes or nothing like that. And where the stool was collected down, and once a day, Mahatari, that, someone will come and collect the stool. So they were stinking. And he's going there and chanting the holy name. Now, how can you understand this mood, right? We will misunderstand. Because for him, the stink of the materialistic desires of people outside was much worse than the stink of the stool. He's sitting there and chanting the holy name. So, therefore, but he's an Uttam Mahabhagvat, such a great elevated personality. So, he's saying that when one in this condition, there is no longer any distinction. So, such devotees, Uttam Vaishnavas, cannot make any distinction between how to be merciful to someone, how to have friendship, or how to neglect, because in their vision, everyone is a devotee. So all his behavior becomes a manifestation of prem, and there is no difference in his eyes between a Kanisht, Madhyam, or Uttam, nor is there any difference between a Vaishnav and a non-Vaishnav. This advanced condition is extremely rare, right? Very, very rarely one achieves this. Shri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschit yatiti siddhaye yatatanam api siddhanam mam tu veti kaschana. Manushyanam sahasreshu, that out of thousands and thousands of people, Kaschit yatiti siddhai, someone makes an effort. So, what he's meaning that most people in the world are pursuing their material desires. Out of them, someone makes an effort. So, those are the Kanishta, the beginners in the spiritual life. Yatatanam api siddhanam. Out of them, some achieve perfection. Those are the middle category of devotees, Madhyam. Mam tu veti kaschana, but someone actually knows me or attains me, and those are the Uttam Mahabhagavats. So, to attain the Lord, so as you know, first is Swarup Siddhi and there is Vastu Siddhi. So, first is realization of our spiritual form, which is called Swarup Siddhi, and then the attainment of our spiritual form, that is called Vastu Siddhi. This only happens at the stage of being an Uttam Mahabhagavat. At a Madhyam stage, one does not attain liberation from the material world. So now someone may think, oh, this is so rare, very difficult to attain. It is rare, but it is not impossible. And the reason it is described that anyone and everyone who's sincerely following the process of bhakti under the guidance of advanced devotees without committing any offenses and without any duplicity or ego will certainly one day achieve this level. But the important thing to understand is that till one gets to this level, till one crosses all this stage, one does not go back to Godhead. Now, for encouraging, especially in the beginning, one may say, "Oh, just chant Hare Krishna, and you will go back to Godhead." But it is true simply by chanting, because chanting is the process. Chanting only will take us to this level, chanting and hearing Hari Katha. So, but the at the same time, we need to understand that this is the level one has to come to. And again, as I said, one can achieve it if one sincerely follows the process. So now he says, see, these are two extremes. One, those who are neophytes, they don't even render service to the Vaishnavas. And then on the other side, there are Uttam Vaishnavas who do not make distinction between Vaishnavas and non-Vaishnavas. So therefore, it is only, as I was saying earlier, that it is only a Madhyamadikari who makes these distinctions and therefore renders services appropriate to each Vaishnava. For those who's chanting Krishna Nam even once, those who chant Krishna Nam constantly, and by seeing whom you start chanting. So, like this, there are different categories of devotees. As Shriman Mahaprabhu, we discussed it 2 classes ago when we were discussing the second characteristic of Madhyamadikari, that each year devotees from Kulin Gram would come for Rath Yatra and they would ask this question, Satya Raj Khan, that from Mahaprabhu, that I am a householder. You please instruct me how to practice devotional service and how should I identify the Vaishnavas. So every year he would ask this question, and every year Mahaprabhu will give answers. So first year he told about that anyone who chants Krishnanam, respect them, give them honor. Anyone who's chanting constantly, serve them and have friendship with them. And those who are chanting, by seeing whom you start chanting, you should wholeheartedly serve them. So, like this, according to the degree of advancement, Madhyamadikari is able to serve them. So then he says that um, these instructions of Sriman Mahaprabhu that he gave to the residents of Kulin Gram are to be revered even more than the Vedas by all the Madhyam Vaishnavas. And what are the Vedas? They are the orders for Bhagwan. So what he's saying, the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, these are the most important for Madhyamadikaris to follow. They are the Vedas. Vedas means the instructions of the Lord, the direct Vani of the Lord. So, what Mahaprabhu has given, this is what we should follow strictly. So, after this, he very briefly explains about the Uttam Mahabhagavats because it is difficult for us to conceive of their level. Among Uttam, also, there are 3 categories, but I would not go in those details. So, among Uttam, also, there is Uttam at the first level, then Uttam Madhyam, and Uttam Uttam. So, after this, concluding this explanation of 3 categories of devotees, Haridas Babaji became silent. And then Nityanand Das, he folded his hands, and now this time, only after Haridas Babaji had stopped speaking, he very gently asked that, may I ask you a question? So Babaji said, of course, please go ahead. So then he asked that, please, you assess what is my level, what category of Vaishnavas do I belong to? He said, am I a Kanishth or am I a Madhyam? I know for sure that I am not Uttam. This much I know for sure. But which category I am? So he's asking more for a genuine assessment of his level so he can consciously make effort to become more sincere and serious in his bhajan and make progress. So now Haridas Babaji himself is an Uttam Mahabhagavat. He's seeing everyone as a devotee of the Lord. So he says your name is Nityanandas, meaning you are a servant of Lord Nityananda. So, someone who's a servant of Lord Nityananda, he's already an Uttam Vaishnav, right? Because he says, my Nitai is so merciful that even when he is beaten, he gives prem in return. So, just by the fact that you are servant of Lord Nityananda, that means you have received prema. So, this is a vision of a Uttam Mahabhagavat. So, as you all know, that when Nityanand Prabhu and Haridas Thakur, upon the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, were going door to door, begging people to please chant the holy name. Once chant Hari Nam. That time, Jagai and Madhai, the two drunkard brothers, they became so agitated that they hit Lord Nityananda with with an earthen pot, and blood started coming out from his forehead. When Mahaprabhu came to know, he immediately came and invoked his Sudarshan Chakra to kill Jagai and Madhai. But that time, Nityanand Prabhu fell at his lotus feet and said, please forgive them. You have come in this as Mahaprabhu. You are the personification of causeless mercy. So please give them mercy, because only then people will know that how compassionate you are. So this is more compassionate that the Lord is his devotee. So Nityanand Prabhu is Akhand Guru Tattva. So therefore, the Guru Varga, the Acharyas, are so much more compassionate. So when Nityanand Das heard this, he said, I sincerely, because he wanted to truly know what his actual position is. So he says, I beg you to please let me know. Then Babaji said, okay, you tell me your whole story. And then if Nityanand Prabhu instructs me, I will tell you what your level is. So now Nityanand, he gives his background. I will share it briefly. You can read it in detail in Jaiva Dharam. So he says that I was born in a low caste class family, not into a rich family, very poor family. And but from his childhood, he was very innocent and humble by nature. He got married at a very early age, and his parents passed away at an early age also. But somehow, by doing some work, daily work, he would make some earning, and him and his wife were living peacefully. But such was the force of time that his wife also passed away when he was very young. So, because of this, now he was left with nobody. He said that thoughts of detachment awakened in my mind. So when you lose everyone, all your relatives, then that detachment comes, right? He said near his village there were many Vaishnavas who had renounced household life, and he would see that people of Badgachi would come and offer them great respect. So if you remember, Badgachi is the place from where all of these Vaishnavas have come, and it's also the place where Lord Nityananda, he stayed many times, and that was almost kind of the center of his preaching mission. So Badgachi is a very special place. So he would see that many Vaishnavas were there who had renounced their household life. And because of being renounced, people will come and they will offer their respects to them. So seeing them receiving this respect, he says, I also hankered that I should get also that kind of respect. So now, by because of the force of time, he now was all by alone. He was almost forced to be detached. So he said there were some temporary feelings of detachment, which because of the death of his wife, he, instead of marrying again, he went to Badgachi, accepted the dress of Vaishnavas, because with what desire? That, oh, if I also become like a Vaishnav, then people will come, they will offer some alms, they will also show me great respect. But the reason why he became a Vaishnav was wrong to begin with. So mind is very fickle. So after a few days, his mind became very disturbed. Now again, those initially there was some detachment, but now as he got settled, again the mind started desiring things, and all kind of wicked thoughts coming in his mind. And he said it was very difficult for me to control. So this happens many times in devotional life, right? That we enter with some sincerity or for some reason, for whatever reason, we come to devotional life, and then at some point, sometimes the mind starts playing all kind of games, and it starts again pulling us down. We start all those previous material, mundane ideas, thoughts that start troubling us. So he's now going through that phase. So he said, but what does one do at that time? So very important instruction we can get from here. He said, now this is a time that one can actually get derailed from the spiritual journey. But he said, it was my great fortune that I received the association of an excellent Vaishnav who was pure and who was simple. Means he was not duplicitous. And he said, with deep affection, he gave me profound advice, kept me in his association, and purified my mind. So, what he's telling is the recipe of making advancement, is the recipe for overcoming all the tribulations of the mind. That mind will certainly present no matter what, because this is how Maya is testing us. So, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains all these different stages in Madhurya Kadambani. At that time, if we think that by sitting alone and chanting the mind will come under control, it will not happen. Oh, I can just sit and read scriptures, mind will not come under control. By how it will come under control? If we accept the shelter of someone who's pure and simple. So, like a Shiksha Guru, because Diksha Guru may not be there all the time. So, and then follow their instructions. Someone who, with great affection, can give us advice. Now, advice is only useful if we accept it, right? So, in this case, because of his some sukriti, he followed the advice that was being given by this devotee who must have been certainly a Madhyam Adhikari or an Uttam at that stage, because he helped him through this difficult time in his devotional life. He says, now my mind is no longer disturbed by all those mischievous and wicked thoughts, and I have developed some taste for chanting the holy name. And now he's actually trying to chant 100,000, means 64 times the mala. And he understands that there is no difference between Sri Hari and Sri Nam, that both are spiritual. He's sincerely following the Ekadashi fast, watering the Tulsi. And he says, when the Vaishnavas perform Kirtan, I also join with rapt attention. He drinks the water that washes their feet of the pure Vaishnavas. He studies the scriptures every day and no longer desires to eat palatable food or dress nicely. So, if you remember, we were just discussing all those symptoms, characteristics of a Madhyam Adhikari. So, one of that characteristic was that now they don't really have much taste for all these material things. So, because of that association, because of now chanting sincerely, automatically in his heart, that level of renunciation was coming. And he says, when I see Vaishnav's ecstatic moods, a desire comes into my mind to roll on the ground at their feet. But he says, I sometimes do so, but it is out of desire for prestige. So still some anartha is there, right? So this is the beginning stage of a Madhyam Adhikari. He has just entered the stage of Madhyam Adhikari because he still has some anartha. And this is a subtle contamination, that when there is still desire for prestige. So he says, even though I want to pay obeisances, and sometimes I do pay obeisances also, but it is with the desire that if I offer obeisances, people will say, oh, see, what a humble devotee he is. So subtly that and desire for prestige is there. So he says now, so by after giving all his symptoms and his background, he says, now please, you give me the judgment. What is my level? So just like when we go to the doctor and tell them all our symptoms, then the doctor is able to tell you what is your disease and what is the intensity of that disease. So then Haridas Babaji looked at Vaishnav Das Babaji and said, "You please tell, what is his level?" So Vaishnav Das Babaji said, "From what I have heard, I think he has surpassed the stage of Kanishta and has entered the Madhyam stage." So that's the reason I tried to explain the three levels within Madhyam. So Madhyam Kanisht, Madhyam Madhyam, and Madhyam Uttam. So he has entered the Madhyam stage because he now does not have much desire for mundane things. He has developed some nishtha, some steadiness. So all those symptoms are there, but still some subtle contaminations are there. So Babaji said, "Yes, I also think the same way." So, hearing this, Nityanand Das, he offered his respects and he said, "You please all be merciful to me, and so that I can gradually make an advance and come to the stage of an Uttam Vaishnav." So now Vaishnav Das ji says something very important. He says, in the beginning, when you entered the order of Vaishnavism, Gaudiya Vaishnavism, there was some desire for honor and prestige in your heart. That desire could have pulled you down. So you were not actually qualified because you took the Vaishnav faith, accepted the Vaishnav faith because of some mundane materialistic desire. But in spite of this, you are just fortunate that you have attained some genuine auspiciousness by the mercy of the Vaishnavas. So then Nityanand Das, just like he had stated before also, he admitted that I still have some desire for honor. And I think that I may attract others and win tremendous respect if I'm weeping profusely and displaying ecstatic emotions. So he says that this desire is still there in my heart, that I should get some honor, people should respect me by, if if I cry doing kirtan, or if I do very melodious kirtan. So this kind of desire is there. And now Babaji gives something very important, which is we should understand this point, and this is what we will discuss and then conclude today's class. Babaji says that you must endeavor to give this up. Otherwise, there is a serious danger that your bhakti will be eroded and you will have to descend to the Kanishta platform again. So he's cautioning him that this desire for prestige is very, very dangerous. Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj would say that this is the last snare of Maya. So everything else one is able to overcome. Here also he says that the desire for fame is the most pernicious, meaning the most dangerous enemy of the Vaishnavas, and it does not easily agree to leave the sadhakas. So just like if you have some very, very bad infection, it does not leave very easily. So he says that it is easy for one to give up the things like the six enemies that we have: Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Mad, Matsarya, lust, anger, greed, attachment, false pride, and then jealousy. They themselves are very difficult to overcome. Material attachments are difficult to overcome. But one may even cross them. But then one gets stuck in this last thing, which is the desire for prestige. Because once people start offering you respect, they start honoring you, then it is very intoxicating. And this is very subtle. It is not easily seen. And sometimes one gets so deluded by this desire for honor that one is not able to recognize and gets completely blown away by it, completely carried away by it. And therefore, he's saying it is very, very dangerous. So, our acharyas have cautioned about this. I will share some beautiful instructions. Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, he in Manah Shiksha, very beautiful composition of Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, where he is speaking to his own mind and chastising his mind that why you wicked mind is full of so many different contaminated and wicked thoughts. He says here, Pratishtha Asha Drishta Shwapachramani me hridi nateta katham sadhu prem sprishati shuchi etat nanu manaha sada tvam sevas prabhu varam udaram shachi sutam tari bhoktum praptam tat anuchar varena nibhitam. He says, O my wicked mind, how can pure love appear in the heart? As long as he says, Shwapach Ramani me hridi nateta. Shwapach Ramani means that shameless dog eating outcast woman. So he's using very, very strong words, but comparing that with the desire for prestige. So he's basically saying that desire for prestige is such a lowly thing that till that is there in your heart and it is dancing audaciously in your heart. Natet means dancing. Then katham sadhu prem, that how would pure love for the Lord appear in your heart? He says, therefore, sada tvam sevas prabhu. Therefore, you always remember and serve the powerful commanders of the army of Shri Krishna. Who are his powerful commanders? His beloved devotees. Serve them because they will at once be able to outcast, banish this this desire, this pratishtha by serving them and initiate you in the pure Braj Prem. Then Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, our illustrious Acharya who founded Gaudiya Mutt, he wrote a beautiful composition called Vaishnava K. And this is 19 stanzas. I will just share with you three or four. And see such a great illustrious Acharya. And with such humility, he is writing this. And through this, he is giving something very important that if you're sincere about bhakti, if you're sincere about Krishna Prem, then follow this. He's saying, Dushtamana tumi ki shera Vaishnava pratisthara tare nirjanera ghare tava arinam keval kaitava. So Dushtman, he's saying, oh wicked mind, tumi kiser Vaishnav. What kind of Vaishnav you think you are? Pratisthar tare. Because you are only pretentiously showing off chanting the holy names, nirjaner ghare, sitting in a solitary place. You are chanting the holy name, but with what? With the desire that people will think, though I am such an elevated Vaishnav because I'm sitting alone and chanting the holy name. He says, your chanting of the holy name is simply a, a show, it's a pretentious show, it's completely hypocrisy, it is not Shuddhanam. Then he says, Jadera Pratishtha, Shukarera Vishtha, Janana Kitaha Mayar Vaibhav, Kanaka Kamini, Divasa Yamini, Bhavya Ki Kaj Anitya Se Saba. He again uses this whole composition, he's talking about this desire only, the desire for pratishtha. And what he's saying, Jadera pratishtha, Jad means mundane. This mundane desire for getting honor. He's comparing this with Shukarera Vishtha. Shukar refers to a hog. So hog already lives in a dirty place. If especially you go to India, you will see hogs in all kind of dirty ponds am surrounded by garbage and stool. He's saying this desire for honor is like the stool of a hog, meaning it is such a abominable thing. Why abominable? Because this will take you away from Krishna Prem. Janana ki taha mayar vaibhav. Don't you know that this is only an illusion of Maya? So Maya is trying very hard, and it is true that when one comes to bhakti, the Maya starts acting very, very strongly. Because those who are under the control of Maya, she is very happy. But when someone starts going away, she is actually testing, because Maya, which is Durga Devi, she is a servant of the Lord. So now she is testing. And that's why she will put many, 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 many tests. And the last test she will pose, the final exam, is whether you have desire for honor. And even the stalwarts, they get carried away by this desire for honor. Therefore, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Na dhanam na janam na sundarim kavitam va jagdish kamaye. That na dhanam, no desire for wealth, na dhanam, na janam, no, I don't desire aristocratic birth. But the third and the last thing he says, na na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim kavitam va jagdish kame, that people should glorify me with beautiful words, meaning the desire for praise. So he's saying that Kanaka Kamini Devasayamini, day and night thinking for wealth and association with the opposite sex. What is the benefit in this? Because this is all temporary. And then he says, Pratishtha Jadamaya Maru Napela Ravan Yujhiya Raghava Vaishnavai Pratishtha Tate Kara Nishtha Tahana Bhajile Lahibe Rava. So he says, even Ravan, he fought with Sri Ram. But what did he get? Nothing. Why he was trying to get great pratishtha, that if I am able to fight with Sri Ram and defeat him, I'll become very famous. But he says this pratishtha, this desire for worldly reputation, is like Jad Maya Maru. So that Jad Maya Maru means just like you see a mirage in the desert. You see water, but there is actually no water. It is only an illusion. So, this desire to gain worldly reputation is only an illusion, because we are temporary. Once you are gone, who is going to remember you? Even 2 generations down, your own family, nobody would know who you are. And all your life, you're trying to get this mundane pratishtha. And this doesn't leave you even when you come to devotional life. So he says, if you really want pratishtha, so what is the real pratishtha? Vaishnavai pratishtha. So the real uh, pratishtha is that the fixed determination to attain only the steady and solid platform whereupon a Vaishnav ever stands. So you should try to serve the Vaishnavas, and that is the real pratishtha, because otherwise one only goes down to the hellish life. And then just one more, and then you can read beautiful stanzas. As I said, the 19 stanzas in this. He says, Harijana Dvesha Pratishtha Asha Klesha Karaken Tabe Tahar Gaurava Vaishnavera Pache Pratishtha Asha Ache Tate Kabhu Nahe Anitya Vaibhava. So he says, why you are being envious of the devotees and suffering, getting tormented by this klesha of criticizing the devotees and then trying to get some sort of eminence. This is only foolishness, nothing else. So, but if you want some real pratishtha, then serve the Vaishnavas. And by serving the Vaishnavas, then you will get the real pratishtha. And that fame is not like the temporary worldly opulence. So, like this, he is very beautifully describing. So, our acharyas have also shown this by example. Sril A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, our Param Gurudev, Sril Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, our Gurudev, even Sril Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, they did such immense preaching. They changed the lives of hundreds and thousands of people around the world. But they were so humble. They only gave all the credit genuinely with their they gave on all the credit to their Guru Varga, that it is only by their mercy what we have been able to achieve. So this type of honor, desire for honor, never touched them. So this is the instruction which he, out of everything that Nityanand Das told about his symptoms, this is one thing that Babaji, Haridas Babaji pointed out, because everything else, he will naturally progress, but he cautioned. Just like when the doctor diagnoses you of a disease, he also cautions that be careful about this one thing, because if you don't are careful, then the medicine will not work. So we should take these instructions to our heart and be conscious about that. And if we are, then bhakti is so sweet, and bhakti is so powerful, bhakti is so relishable, and bhakti is so blissful that it will spontaneously take us ahead to the our cherished goal of achieving Krishna Prem. So we will stop here. And see if anyone has any questions. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. So if anyone has any questions, we can take that now. Okay, so if no questions, again, if you read this chapter and if you have any questions, then feel free to send those to me. It's a very important chapter, and therefore we are going slowly. And now the discussion of these three categories is more or less complete, but a few more important points in this chapter that we will discuss the next time we meet. We are not going to meet next Sunday. We will meet now after 2 weeks. So that would be the 23rd of August. That's when we will have the next class. So I request, please read this chapter. And if you have any questions, please do let me know. Okay. हरे कृष्णा गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल शिल गुरुदेव की जय शिल भक्त ठाकुर भक्त विनोद की जय
Thank you, Prabhuji.
हरे कृष्णा
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा